bugs in jars! Begin. Hack and slash, what can only be described as an action or an order. All three words evoke imagery in concert with a battlefield. From an army for one man to a one-man army, the coat of arms held aloft by this concept vary wildly in their outlandish presentation. Hordes of enemies swarm your approach as you hack and slash a path towards your desired goal. Simple, mindless fun that almost never gets old. Violence! Straight to the point and bloody to boot, the genre is founded on impossible conflicts, equivalent to playing with fake swords, except canonically, they're real fake swords. So every real fake murder is a real fake tragedy, reduced to a number that determines how well I did and gives me new abilities. Okay, it's cool again. Let's talk about the numbers. Should we talk about the numbers? We're gonna talk about the numbers. If Soldier A and Soldier B are rushing onto a battlefield, how much longer do they have to live? Combat is no doubt the most important aspect of the commonly sustained gameplay loop. Button mashing is the routine, and 100-hit combos are the result, as flashy moves and showy powers facilitate a valor-filled power fantasy. As I'm sure you can tell, battles are very clearly fast-paced, but the moment-to-moment gameplay hides that fact by always giving you something to do. And yes, by do I mean kill. The vast array of powers range from supernatural accuracy to harnessing the sun, and those are just the tangible ones, as the mortal game of warfare sometimes dips below the veil. From For Honor to Bayonetta, hack and slash games vary in their focus on warfare, but stay the same in their penchant for combat. With a goal-oriented layout, staying in one place is primarily a losing strategy. You see, in this circumstance, you are the cavalry, the tip of the spear, and I mean that in every sense of the word. You acquire your objective, and your forces, physical or magical, keep them acquired, promoting a sense of cooperation with a bunch of brave little digital soldiers. The split-color minimap informs your decisions, and swarms of red dots impede your approach, driving you forward in the most impulsive of ways. And one of those ways is with quote-unquote stuff. Born from a boss like a chick from an egg, stuff is the lifeblood of milestone-based leveling, and also I want it. Attack bonuses and damage multipliers are commonplace for weapons and armor alike, but with various numbered health bars and stamina pools, from our perspective, the makeup of the system usually fades into the background, popping up as colored text indicating that a big sword does big damage. If you're going to have dozens of unique items with passive and active effects on the ongoing gameplay, it makes sense to have the important attributes on hand. But in this most brutal of genres, after 20 seconds of quiet confusion, you realize the main goal in acquiring these magical bows and broadswords is to use them and use them viciously, or whatever other adjective vaguely relates to active combat. Like dope! An impossible to predict or even understand system of, dare I say, mythical proportions, the combo system of a hack and slash game is currently the closest thing we have to Pandora's box. A silver bullet of the perfect words to describe a continuous state of extreme awesomeness. As a significantly more fun alternative to being graded on a curve, there's a small sense of motivation provided by the knowledge that there are still further heights to reach, and more importantly, words to discover. For example,
Sick skills!
And of course,
Smoking sexy style!
Wild phrases fit for wild characters. But it begs the question, who has the right to choose who lives or dies? Nah, I'm just kidding. A description of charisma from the wonderful game of Dungeons & Dragons reads as follows. Charisma measures your ability to interact effectively with others. It includes such factors as confidence and eloquence, and it can represent a charming or commanding personality, which I think perfectly describes our war-torn Power Rangers. Following a dogma of vengeance or justice, conscripted soldiers are pushed to breaking and put to the sword, as imagined cause filters out the fiercest of personalities. Arguably relative to real-life events, those chosen few adhere to values and codes that we encounter already being put into practice. You see, by depicting a story cut into sections, the sages are disguised as acts, framing the dispassionate actions of the regiment from a more personal point of view. Now, to put this into perspective, because of the whole war thing, most of the story is portrayed through dialogue and cutscenes exclusively. The most interaction you'll be doing with the action buttons is limited to kill or kill harder. Understandable given the context, but it does elevate the dissonance when every voice line says I hate somebody and I don't know who that is. Mind you, some of the games in this genre have a backlog about a mile long, so sometimes the story's importance all depends on the legwork you're willing to do when you jump into the franchise. But first impressions are incredibly important, and actions speak louder than words, leading to some unique character choices that I would be remiss to not mention. I mean, Nanai Babcom really ate with these ones. From a prisoner with a boulder for weapon to an animated ninja cat, every warrior has a notable theme and every persona has a powerful personality, and honestly, I wouldn't have it any other way. You've got the classic Red Duster for Hell's favorite Demon Slayer and the many bold fashion styles from Platinum Games' Bayonetta. The unapologetic tone and tenor these games provide help carve out a unique space entirely of their own. Speaking of unique spaces, God, I'm a genius. The set piece of a moment will always be important given that it literally makes up the ground you walk on. A stage, if you will. Stages with elevation and transportation, stages with outposts and calderas, stages of every shape and color, and embarrassment of treasures in the form of a digital space. Whether it be desert dunes or snow-capped mountains or even the ruins of a city, the culture and climate are undoubtedly a backdrop, but one in a different way than you might expect. Form over function, or rather, function over form. Given the standards and ideals that come with a horizon suitable to kill people on, the layout is much more affected by the theme behind it than any other possible criteria. No matter what, a set amount of space is going to be needed if the hack and slash part of the hack and slash game is going to happen, but the theme is free. No extra charges for flavor, buddy. Interest-free murder spree! Characterized stages, much like the characters themselves, are specialized in violence distinct to the ideology of a world where conflict informs a routine. Now before I get to my summary, I'd like to take a look at a special game that has formed my love of hack and slash titles. So, let's do that. Death is worse for those left behind, a notion apparent throughout the corrupted world of Darksiders 2 and its overarching story. An infamous fable twisted into a fantastical light, the intricate spiderweb of areas and pathways gives a seemingly uncomplicated game freedom of choice, and the same can be said on a smaller scale for the vicious systems of combat. A hack-and-slash Metroidvania paired with RPG elements and stellar writing foment a sense of grave danger that you are characteristically ready to meet. Monsters follow your every move as you cut through abominations like claw through cloth, forwarding the goal of Death and his pale horse, forcing the player to fall in the line all by the game's own merits. This is done by providing the player with a choice of loadout. Earned with careful precision, weapons and skills are ready for the choosing and change the flow of combat to your speed. From the Forge Lands to Shadow Gorge, the traversal ranges from wall jumps to horseback riding, a set of skills useful for solving the many puzzles that litter the Three Kingdoms dungeons. Clearing out chosen stages with progressively powerful abilities and adapting to new hurdles all to advance the March of Death creates something unique and addictive. With dynamic mechanics around every corner and a progression system named Trial and Error, the breadth of the game has to be experienced, and because of its very nature, it's incredibly fun to do so. A potent combat system paired with charming characters makes for a hidden gem that shines particularly bright, which is kind of ironic. Hack-and-slash games equal to life are non-stop action, a rousing sentiment to push back against insurmountable odds, aggressively even. It's easy to forget, even though we do it every single day. Tirelessly putting your life on the line to get where you want to is never going to be ideal, but the ideals you fight for, ideals like courage and sacrifice, now that gives you something to live up to. Thanks for watching! Plus, I mean, come on. Who doesn't want to be a hero?